Are you feeling frustrated today, Pat?
A little bit, yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good because this the episode topic for today is about patience.
Yeah.
The hell is that?
It's the most effective way to blind your cat.
Is it anti-cat?
Get a light and then set it right where he likes to lay.
You're
and
like,
apparently, he's just gonna go. Cats, because they're stubborn. They're gonna go.
Yeah, this is uncomfortable, and I'm just gonna lay here. It's like when you have to pee in the middle of the night and you're in bed, and you're like, I would sleep much better and be comfortable if I would just get up and go to the bathroom, but you don't.
Do you mind if I tell you one of my most embarrassing stories?
Yeah, please do.
All right. So speaking of having to pee and not wanting to, essentially, I guess, I once, I don't exactly remember how old I was, but I was definitely too old. I had my own room.
Right.
I was a man.
Yeah.
Still living at home.
Yeah.
But I was probably early teens, maybe at this point, or almost pre.
Okay.
Just pre.
Okay.
So it was a Saturday morning, probably around 10:30 a.m., 11 a.m., something perfect, beautiful. There's a nice cool breeze blowing through, and I'm all snuggled up in my bed. And I really had to pee. And I put it off for a long time.
Right.
Rolled over, no, just try. Just go back to sleep.
Enjoy this glorious weather.
So I made a decision, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
I made an executive decision.
Yes. We call this the point of no return.
Yep. Yeah. And also, this also taught me a lot about
Bladder control.
cause and reaction, or whatever.
Cause and effect.
Cause and effect. Cause and effect is a better. It is because I was like, just do it. Just do it. Go for it and go back to sleep. And I did. I knowingly pissed the bed just so I didn't have to get up, only to wake up 10 minutes later, freezing.
No.
And I had to get up because I could not bear it. I was like,
This is by far one of the most disturbing stories I think I've ever
it's a
heard.
spooky story.
Our Halloween episode was last episode.
Yeah.
And Pat,
I saved the scariest for last.
you did. You've outdone yourself. I couldn't possibly understand what motivated you to piss in your own bed.
This was, like I said, I was in school still, I think. Maybe. I don't know. It was early on, but I was definitely old enough to know not to do this. I should have, what are you doing?
Well, this is clear.
Yeah.
I mean, but more importantly is that you had the perfect weather and a beautiful day. And how you figured your own piss would make it okay or better.
I literally thought it's going to be warm. I thought it would be warm.
Second.
Yeah, I didn't think that through. I didn't go, oh yeah, turns out, what happens to warm liquid once it meets cold air for a little bit?
Yeah.
Cools to right down.
Yeah. You're laying in cold piss.
That's why people go to their coffee, because that's all you need.
Right.
To ruin a perfect hot cup of coffee.
There you go. That's right.
So yeah, I don't do that.
Don't piss your bed. Wow.
Yeah, so that's a little truth bomb from Pat George here on the 6am podcast.
We're here. We're all about vulnerability.
Yeah, usually, but I that's why I preface it by saying that is one of the most embarrassing stories. That is, I'm perfectly
okay. So
admitting that.
So I will share that even as of last week, I don't. I'll go through periods of time where I cannot hold my bladder.
Oh yeah.
Where it'll feel like days of every time every 5 minutes I've got to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
I'm a pretty hydrated guy.
Yeah.
I drink a lot of liquids.
A lot of caffeine sometimes too.
Sometimes a lot of caffeine. I drink a lot of water. I drink a lot of beer. You
drink a lot of coffee when you just have a hole in your cup. You don't even.
That's right. I mean, that's right.
Just
I just down the gullet goes. So I'm a fan of the liquid.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So And I'll go through periods of time where I just cannot hold it. I went to my daughter's showcase for their cheer competition team. So they're getting ready to compete. This is, by the time everybody's listening to this, happy November.
Hell yeah.
We'll be next to my favorite holiday.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
The gluttonous holiday of Thanksgiving.
I love it.
I love it.
Yeah, it's my favorite holiday. But at any rate, they had their showcase, and it's at the high school, and you show up, but you have to wait in line. It's at a certain time, and they don't open the doors until a certain time. But you got to get there early, otherwise you're in a super huge long line. And I got there early, Pat.
Yeah.
And I had to pee.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm seriously 15 minutes away from home. Not even for 10 minutes away from home.
People don't understand. If you have because we have a very active bladder.
A very active bladder. The rest of me is active, so does my bladder.
Right. So when we have active bladders, Jeff, this sounds like a fucking medicine commercial.
This sounds like
if you have active bladder.
This sounds like this sounds like an adult diaper commercial.
Use 6 a.m. Ultra.
You wet your you wet the bed, and I'm like, okay, so I'm in line.
Yeah.
But when I got out of the car, I was speaking of the point of no return. I'm like, okay, so I could hedge my bets that the door will open soon enough for me to use the lavatory, or I should just turn around and go home and use the bathroom, or can I just drive up the street and go to the Sheetz station and use the bathroom and return?
I love Sheetz. Sheetz bathrooms are usually okay enough for any situation.
Yeah. Shout out to Sheetz. Yeah. Their coffee's terrible, but your bathrooms are divine.
Most of what they do is pretty bad.
Yeah,
but a lot of what they do is pretty good.
It's your bathrooms. So I'm standing in line, and I've made the decision that the doors will open in time. And I'm getting really close to I'm just going to have to go in there and say, look.
And now you're in front of people, too. That's the worst part. Is
that's just it.
You
There's
make
a
this
line
decision,
of people.
and you're like, okay, now I'm in a crowd. And you're like,
right.
Don't piss yourself. I
can't urinate on myself.
You can't pee in the bush.
And I'm right.
You know what I mean?
Seriously scoping areas where I'm like, but I'm on school grounds. I can't urinate. Then
that's a charge. Yeah.
I'm actually thinking to myself, guys, should I go back to my car? Because I know I've somewhere in there is going to be an empty water jug or something in there because I drink a lot of liquids. And so I'm like, there's got to be something in there. Like, do I find a way to go to my car and urinate in this canister?
Yeah.
There's no bush. And the reality is that I could have just walked to the front door and said, look,
I gotta pee.
Yeah, I've got to pee really bad. There's no reason for you not to let me in and use the restroom.
Right. I'm an adult. Come on.
And just as I was getting to the point of desperation, the line started moving, the door was open. But that just made it worse because now I got to wait for all these motherfuckers to get in there. And they're all talking to people and milling around. I'm like, good grief, man.
It's my daughter's first time.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks, really, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, I did.
Can we get a picture?
No! Absolutely not.
Jeff, that's just pushing through everybody.
Fuck out of the way, yeah.
Because that's the worst part is you get to, it's almost, the worst case scenario is my biggest fear is getting to, I've shit myself multiple times in a bathroom where I just misjudged a fart. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to sit there. Do you need a tissue?
I almost choked on that one because it was so nonchalant. I mean, I've shit myself multiple times in a bathroom.
Guys, but where you're there and you're just like, come on. Why did I wear so many fucking? Oh, come on. Like that final, but then that glorious ecstasy of when you're spilling your urine inside of anything. At that point, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
you could be doing it on a cop's leg, and you're just like, give me a minute, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm gonna pay for this.
Yeah, let me get my money's worth.
Yeah,
you're gonna fucking beat the shit out of me and arrest me. At least let me get let me empty. Yeah, this liquid. But
shout out to the Jewish Community Center in Lancaster that I urinated in your parking lot because I couldn't hold it any longer.
Dude,
and I was seriously less than a mile from home, and I couldn't make it.
It's scary.
I was on my knees in the parking lot, praise Jesus,
praise whoever this is.
I want to say praise Jesus, but then I was in the Jewish Community Center parking lot.
And you're like, whoops, for a little bit, and then
just for a minute.
But actually, true story. I do have a traveling urinal in my car now.
Did you?
And now I have a gift idea for Mr. Beck.
You
Christmas,
Christmas is right around.
What's
the corner.
right around Thanksgiving?
Christmas.
That's right.
Yeah.
Secret Santa, who's getting a piss jug. This guy.
Yeah, this guy.
I'm only saying that because I know you'll forget, and then you'll go,
oh, bad.
And I'm giving it to you at class.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
This is great because I'll use it in class as well. So, hey, welcome everybody back to the 6 a.m. podcast.
Just make sure you turn your back. Don't show your professor.
That's right. If you're going,
Shout out to that.
Yeah, if you're gonna piss out in the jug, like, you make sure you turn your back to everybody.
Yeah.
So, shout out to 6 a.m. listeners everywhere.
Yeah.
You're part of the 6 a.m. crew, and we're happy here to have the next episode. It's after spooky season.
Yeah. If you have an active bladder, please pound off in the comments. Let us know your piss story.
Yeah, I'm sure you've got some good ones.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool thing. I love the interaction we have, and a lot of times where like people will roll or something like that, and they'll start telling me like a funny thing or like, oh yeah, I was. And it's just like, what? And they're like, oh, yeah, I was listening to the recent episode. Like, yeah. It's just like, what the fuck? Why are you talking about pissing yourself?
Yeah, what's the matter with you?
I mean, I'm on board. I got stories, too. Like, on purpose or an accident? Which one are we talking about?
Because, right.
I can do both.
Yeah, we can. We got them in both categories.
Yeah, so yeah, shout out to the 6 a.m. crew out there and everybody. Hope everybody had a safe and happy holiday season.
Halloween, trick-or-treating.
Yeah.
Did you check your candy? You should.
Yeah, there was never a razor blade. That's all a lie.
It's all a lie.
Yeah.
All of it.
And also, stop worrying about people drugging your kids. I have been doing drugs a long time. I have never felt compelled to give them away to anyone. We don't do that.
And there you have it, kids. People that do drugs don't share.
We're stingy. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I mean, I think that's an important PSA for everybody out there. But it is funny because as Pat and I are both, we're in the podcast world, we also listen to a lot of podcasts. And I happen to like a lot of like the spooky story podcasts.
Yeah.
And there's been multiple stories about the urban myth, if you will, that candy is tainted and that there's somebody out there trying to kill your children through candy, but it's all a lie.
Yeah, it's always this weird compulsion I have. My first thought is like, what? Who gives a shit about your kid? Why would they want to kill your kid?
Yeah.
Like everybody assumes that they live in the same neighborhood as Heath Ledger's Joker.
Yeah, right.
Just this weird guy that wants to watch the whole town burn.
Right.
And it's like, no, it's just either somebody doesn't have candy and you egg their house, or they give you candy. And that's the rule.
And you get away for another year.
Yeah, you get away with an eggless house for another year, and we all get diabetes.
Yeah.
That's the rule. It's always been that.
Everybody wins.
It's always been that. There's never been razor blades. There's never been drugs given away. Although the gummies and stuff like that, I could see there being a mix-up. But again, they don't come in fun size. They're drugs. We could tell the difference. Sorry. I got triggered. I get triggered a lot around this time where people, like indigenous people around Thanksgiving or Columbus Day. A lot of times it's a touchy subject. For me, it's just like, stop profiling us, okay? We're not that dumb.
Yeah.
We're pretty dumb, but we're not that dumb.
Yeah. We're fucked up, but
we're fucked up, but we're not like fucked up.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Not like me, who's mentally ill.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, Pat, we have a topic for today. We want to talk about, and it's funny that this comes up because this has a lot to do with the patient mind.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Our topic for today is about patience.
Lots of breathing exercises done in these situations.
Lots of wishing that I'd made better choices.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And compromise.
And compromise is a good one. We're going to do a whole episode on
You're
compromise.
right. That did fucking work perfectly. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. What a great intro.
Yeah. So nice. Good job on that.
Totally
one.
on purpose.
Yeah. Pat is feeling impatient today.
Yeah.
I think you're a little agitated overall.
Overall, this is okay. So truthfully, this is a thing that I need work with.
Patience?
Yes, patience in general.
In general, right?
All over, because I started my day by coming up here and finding my chair like this.
Down the whole way.
And normally, Jeff, yeah, you're right. Sorry. For the people who are listening.
Yeah, we do have listeners.
If you didn't hear just the click of my chair, I lowered my seat all the way to the ground. And when I sit like this, we've talked about this.
Yeah.
You're basically kneeing yourself in the tits.
Correct.
Not literally, but it feels like I'm stifled here.
This is exactly what it feels like when you're not on a comfort height toilet.
Right. Yeah, exactly. This is a squatty pottyless. I'm actually going to raise this up.
Yeah, I would get that back up to where it belongs.
So,
there you go. Perfect.
But it's because Dominique has gotten a promotion and she's working a lot from home.
Right.
And a lot of times she also podcasts and she'll use my chair.
Of course,
because we got her the exact same chair that she wanted and she doesn't want to use that one. She wants to use my my fucking chair.
Yeah.
It's the same chair without wheels. That's it.
Right.
I took the wheels off because I wanted it to be the exact same place every time I sit in it.
Okay.
It's weird, right?
Yeah.
But it's my fucking chair.
Yeah, I
right?
got you. I got you.
This is my spot.
I feel you.
So I came up here and I said, and it was down again, and I was just like, I have literally asked every time. Please.
Dozens of times.
And normally you would say, what I just did, right? It's
Yeah.
just, Pat, just lift it up. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's my problem is I am in situations where I should just go, what's the big deal? I always go, yeah, what's the big deal? Why can't you fucking do it?
Right.
So I struggle with patience in every sense. Maybe you can help me with that.
I doubt it, but
Jeff, what would you do if your wife did that? My next thought is I'm going to hide my equipment. I'm going to put my chair in the closet when I'm not using it.
because the effort of putting the chair in the closet and hiding it would be far easier than just
know where it'll be.
lifting the chair back up, like
Right.
pushing the handle. This makes perfect sense.
Because I know where it will be. It will be exactly where I put it. Because it's like, oh, this chair's not here? All right.
Yeah, so it's crazy because I don't know exactly where I fell in the spectrum of patience in my life on a whole. I don't know that I thought about it. Certainly, like probably pretty average. Some things I'm super patient about, and some things I'm not patient at all about.
Right.
But we're definitely going to talk about patience in jiu-jitsu and what a powerful tool patience is in jiu-jitsu specifically. But in life, the circumstances in which I find myself under in terms of my family and my children and you know, marriage and all those things, I cannot tell you how valuable a tool patience has become over the years.
Right.
And not least of which because I actually, and this is 100% a truism, I live in a very neurodivergent household.
Okay.
I have an entire family that is clinically diagnosed with ADHD.
Okay. I was going to ask, neurodivergent is basically is not mental.
They're not mentally ill like I am.
Yeah, like you. They're not having night terrors or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They don't wake up in the morning and decide to ruin a perfectly good day by urinating in their own bed.
Or the Jewish community.
or to urinate on a Jewish
I didn't fucking
community.
hate crime somebody, okay?
No, just yourself.
Yeah, just me.
Fair enough.
I was the casualty.
Yeah.
But
Fair
you're right,
enough.
yeah.
Fair enough. But like they're like if you know somebody that has ADHD or you know you live with somebody that has ADHD, their brain just doesn't operate on the level like the same level that your brain without ADHD does. So for instance, one of those things that happens a lot is piles are a normal part of the continuum. Like things just get piled. Open cupboard doors, open doors, lights turned on and not turned off. Like,
damn,
these are just things that don't.
I need to get her tested.
Potentially, right?
Yeah.
But the point of all that is to say is that I think in the beginning of my you know, like sort of coming into my own as a grown up, number one, a husband, a father, like all these things, I would get really agitated by these things, like. And one day, much in the same way that you're coming to this conclusion as well,
where you're like, I'm going to hide the whole house in the closet.
That's
so
right.
You guys can't fuck it up. What?
Right. Or I'll just turn the light off.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's never going to change. And I think the idea that that occurred to me in my young adult head at one point was that none of these things are about me at all.
Right.
They're not malicious. I was not part of this thought process in any way, shape, or form. So no, nobody decided to do this for me as I came home from work and made me close all the cupboard doors. Like no one's we got him now.
You know how he hates when we leave the doors open? Let's leave extra ones open.
Let's leave ones open that he doesn't even know about.
Let's make him hit his head on one. Like that.
Yeah, right.
Something like that where you're just like, whoa!
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. The whole point was that like it really just required you to look at things differently and then understand that like, you know, the problem was really my impatience, my inability to recognize, you know, that this is not about me at all.
Right.
And I think a lot of
it's
like
not an attack.
It's not an attack, right? And this is like one of those things that I think helps really like sort of center, you know, I didn't change the way that I felt about them. I love all of them, and it didn't matter, right? Like,
that's the thing. Is I do like and it's not I don't think it's the normal my wife, you know, kind of thing. It's like my wife always fucking
the old ball and chain
leaves the sponge wet. You know what I mean? Like one of those things of like it's I definitely there's things that I'm like she always says a thing where she said, "Common sense is not common."
Well, that's true too.
And it's like that's one of her favorite phrases. But I'm like, that, yeah, I get it. But like, you have the exact same chair. It's at the same table. I understand like being patient in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
But I think when you mix the ADHD with a person who is very stubborn. I want to say stubborn, but when I'm right, I dig my heels in.
Right.
When it's like one of those things of like, hey, I understand that, but
Yeah.
I've literally said to you, like, this is my spot. I'll turn the lights off. I'll close the cupboard doors. I'll do this stuff. But then it's like,
yeah,
leave my chair alone.
Right. And when
it does feel like an attack, but you're right. It is not.
It's not even
not.
right.
Yeah.
It's just nothing to right. And again, like this idea, it's your desire to be right at that moment.
Yes.
That is the actual problem.
And it's a lot of projection. It's one of the things
Yeah.
of like, in my head, we just talked about that. I have the
and it was so important.
right. And it's literally like
and to her, she's like, okay.
She's like, cool, I'll do my best. And it's like, no.
No, you will do
Can
it.
you just please just use the chair, your chair. And it's one of those things that a patience with like technology, patience in a lot of things. I got to tell you, a patience in jiu-jitsu is one of the only things I kind of understand, but it's more of being comfortable in uncomfortable situations.
Right. So, but this is what leads us to it. This is why
Right.
we should use like your understanding of patience in jiu-jitsu as a model for how you traverse life.
Right.
Because if you're not patient in jiu-jitsu, you end up getting in bad spots. You end up not being able to get out of bad spots. You end up getting submitted. You end up
lose perspective.
You
Yeah.
lose perspective. You lose position.
Yeah.
All of these things happen as a result of your lack of patience. Now, a broken clock is right twice a day. And yes, there are definitely times in which like your aggression and speed in a particular situation, like your lack of patience, will work out in your favor.
Yeah.
But generally speaking,
You can't rely on that.
as a general rule,
Yeah.
you can't rely on it. I
Right.
think it's the most important thing, especially when you get to my age, guys. Like sometimes I think I'm super fast and like, I mean, I don't care if it's like I'm doing jujitsu or I'm skateboarding or whatever. And I'm like, man, that was going so fast. And I'll watch the film back and I'm like, could I be any slower?
Yeah. Wow. Did I slow this down?
Yeah, like it's a different film
What the
this in
hell?
slow motion.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not really that fast. And so like it's really important for you to recognize that you cannot rely on your speed. You need to rely then instead on your patience. Your understanding of position in jiu-jitsu, for instance, if you're in a top position, deploy patience. And we talk about this especially when we're talking about when we are transitioning from one space to the other. If I'm moving from if I'm moving from a subdominant to a dominant position and I secure that position, there's no hurry for me to transition to the next position.
Right.
Instead, make them bear your weight for a while.
Yeah.
Make them
Yeah.
panic for a little while.
Be patient.
Be
Like,
patient.
Literally,
Yeah.
and that's the thing is like
Yeah.
I was trying to not. I would like I've told you in the past I'm interested in getting into teaching and or coaching or
Yeah.
helping coach and stuff like that when
Right.
possible. So I want to try to. Just today I was watching two people roll today, and I was like, oh, this is a really good roll. I'm like, and I see somebody he was going for a head and arm,
Yeah.
and I was like, all right, but I feel like it's really important to remind them to be patient in those situations, like patient, like. Even if patient is like just reminding them to
Yeah.
be patient as like a placeholder for coaching, like just be patient.
Yeah.
Take your time in this position. I don't have to tell you what to do, except for this is a time because you need to be saying something because I hadn't said anything the whole time. They didn't know I was going to coach them. So I went, hey, you should try to get your head into his armpit. And he goes, huh? And he got swept. And I was like, I'm
the worst patience. I'm the worst coach ever.
Yeah, it's one of those things of like you gotta like
Yeah.
you have to keep it like you because in those positions if you react like he just heard my voice and went, huh? Are you talking to me?
Yeah, right.
Like, yeah. And like it was he immediately lost that.
Right.
So it's like I feel like that patience in general can also just be a really good instruction sometimes. Like,
it
just
is.
like
It's a good reminder always.
a reminder.
Yeah, because the truth is that the reverse is also true, and that is if I recognize that you're somebody that's impatient, I will use that against you. The more patience I deploy in the situation, the more likely you are to be like, fuck it, and then
Yeah.
go after
Yeah.
something. And it's exactly what I needed because before that, I was experiencing the same scenario you were, where I wasn't able to advance, wasn't able to get through your guard or get to the position I wanted for a takedown or something like that. And I wait for you to lose your patience and just say, fuck it, I'm going for it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, exactly what I needed.
Yeah.
And to you, and this is like the fascinating part, is that, because I feel this way too, is that I'm like, God, I've been working on this for like, it's got to be like 4 minutes. And I look up and it was 30 seconds.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
It feels like you've been doing this forever and it's not getting anywhere. No. You just take your time, because the truth of the matter is that, and I try to remind all of my students of this, in that if we had to deploy jiu-jitsu in real life or in competition, for instance, I only need one submission. That's it. I need one.
Right.
I don't need multiple ones in a match.
Yeah.
I need one.
You just need the one that's going to be that's it. And not only
and
that,
the definitive one.
The definitive one,
Right.
but also like the fact that you need to be. That helps with another reminder to stay patient and to continue to work. It's one of those things that like no matter what, that is a great example of what in this, because if you react emotionally. I'm trying to think of like of the correlation.
It
between
is
the
emotional.
Two. It's an emotional thing.
Your
You're
impatience
frustrated.
is your impatience is definitely a bore out of your frustration.
Right.
And then it manifests in you making a mistake.
And in a jiu-jitsu match, it means that one submission could go to them now.
Right.
They get the submission. But in a relationship or in any other thing, it could mean like true actual damage. Like, because you're so reactionary.
Well, this is true. This is true, especially for people who are driving.
Mm-hmm.
This is like
that's a great point.
I mean, all these real life scenarios where like you make a decision and it's go time. You reach that point of no return that we were just talking about, and it was based on your impatience. It is highly likely that the result is going to be a negative one, and it's not going to be one that you can reverse.
I think a lot of times, what
like
people
peeing in your bed, on purpose,
exactly. More patience. I should have just waited it and just done it in my sleep,
like any normal
any normal bedwetter. But I've had like situations where, like in a traffic scenario, a lot of times I think people, and me too. This is me projecting, but I think people a lot of times in replacement of patience, it's reaction or something like that, because it feels like patience might be considered complacency or weakness,
right,
or something like that,
right,
and not in my scenario, like with driving. Another thing I'm not patient at. I want to get to where I'm going. I got my car for a reason. I'm not just strolling. I want to go there.
Right.
I want to do the speed limit or a little bit above. I want to drive safely, but very, very, I want to get there, right? So when I got somebody lollygagging in front of me,
sure,
or some dickhead that just kind of strolls out from a stop sign right in front of you, like, that stuff, that bugs me. But I think the reason it bugs me is because it's in you're in a heightened state. In driving, or when you're in a situation with a jiu-jitsu match, fight, or any of these situations, you're in a heightened situation. And that's why it is way more important, especially like in a relationship. Yes, practice patience, no matter what. But in these situations,
but that doesn't happen either.
But in these situations, it's so much more dire, because like, think about in a jiu-jitsu match. Yeah, you get armbarred, you tap, it's done. But like, nobody's going to understand my perspective in a situation, in a road rage situation, or in me losing my patience in that.
They don't care.
That anymore. I go, you're driving a death machine. You need to pay attention to the other people in death machines.
Yeah.
Like, if we hit somebody, it's over. It's bad. It's really, really bad. So I assume that responsibility, and I take all of that responsibility, and I'm going, what are you doing? What are you doing? But even still, not realizing like they're bad. They're just bad drivers. Just be careful, and one of those situations, and just focus on yourself.
They're bad drivers.
Right.
It's
whatever.
Also they're drunk.
Yeah.
You get spend half an hour on the roads of Pennsylvania, and you recognize that everybody on this road's likely got at least one DUI.
But a lot of times, patience is not weakness. It's not complacency. It is self-preservation.
Yeah.
It's survival.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's not a best example, but it's like rope-a-dope or something like that, where you have this situation where you're just going to let somebody punch themselves out, and then you can just go,
right.
How'd it feel?
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, it's a great, I mean, we always have to have at least one digression.
Now it's well lit.
Yeah. You like what you see there, big boy?
He always looks at you. Too.
I know. He looked me dead in the eyes. He was like, check this out.
We'll let you do it this one. You're not being so much a menace.
No,
buddy.
you're being all right.
You're being a good
fucking
boy.
Stanley. I tell you what. So it's interesting because I just actually heard this about black bears, for instance, and that is, it was about a guy and his brother that were working for the park or whatever, and their job was to track these family of black bears, but they would collar them, but then as the bears grew for hibernation, as they got fatter, they had to change their collar so it didn't choke them.
Yeah.
But what they would do is they would find them in their dens, and I'll make a long story very short, but the point of all this was what they were telling their audience about black bears is that they're really not aggressive bears. They're not like grizzly bears.
Yeah.
And so, and they deploy a lot of patience when it comes, first of all, they're apex predators in their area. So like they don't really concern themselves with getting killed.
They're not they're not in survival mode, essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
However, they will provide ample warning before they attack, and not least of which because they, as a species, understand that if they themselves get hurt in a scuffle, that could result in their demise.
Yeah.
Their inability to feed or to procreate or to survive.
Yeah.
And so they avoid conflict. Even though they are the apex predator of their environment, they avoid conflict to an extreme because of self-preservation. The point was, I found it was fascinating that here's this creature that could easily dismantle a human being without too much concern, yet they avoid conflict.
Yeah.
Just in the off chance that something would happen to them and they would be injured.
That
and
is
not
interesting.
Be able,
yeah.
So they deploy a lot of patience, and I was like, that's fascinating, but it is exactly like that. And you brought up another good point too about patience in jiu-jitsu. When you are at a heightened state, your blood pressure's up, your adrenaline's up, you're moving, and it is at those moments that you really have to tap into that inner peace, that thing inside your mind that tells you to calm down, deploy patience. Because the truth is like in passing, in setups for submission holds, takedowns, rarely does the first try or the first attempt work.
Yeah.
You have to use multiple attempts, and sometimes you have to do the same thing over and over and over again to get to the position that you want.
A lot of times.
Yeah, a lot of times, right. and so that in and of itself right there is you focusing on the patience, your patience and focusing on your intent.
Yeah. It's really
versus
just
getting frustrated.
It's focus. It's focus in general, because it's the same idea. If you're able to practice it in traffic, you know what I mean? Like if you're in bumper to bumper traffic or or whatever it may be, if you're able to just be in the moment, try to garner up a little bit of perspective, and just go like, hey, I can listen to some good music and just hang out in my air conditioned car. I can just what I'm saying? Like
everything's chill. Right?
Overall, it's not that fucking bad.
It's not, because I don't have anybody trying to snap one of my limbs.
Right. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
I mean, so I mean, I think if you don't train jiu-jitsu, it's a great way for you to change, to help move you into that mindset.
Yeah.
When it really counts, when it's really like a problem, where somebody's trying to cause harm to you, then you can do it. Then you can certainly do
like
that.
Lowering your chair. You mean
exactly.
when somebody's attacking you by lowering your chair on
clearly
purpose.
Sending a clear message.
It's literally what it does. It is totally transferable. It is really what 100%
it is. 100% transferable.
It's patience in any of these scenarios can absolutely be gained from your knowledge and patience in jiu-jitsu, because that is the one place I am the most patient.
Yeah.
It's the only place I'm the most patient, is because I'm fully present. I don't have any distractions.
That's a great point.
I don't have anybody else. I'm fully.
Another great point. That's two of them.
Yeah. No, wow. I'm on a roll. I'm gonna stop there.
Yeah. No, but do you want to dive into those two?
Yeah.
Because they're really super important. That you're completely in the moment and you don't have any other distractions. They're kind of the same thing, but they're different parts of the same piece of the puzzle. And that is exactly right. So most of the time, you recognize that when something goes wrong in jiu-jitsu, it's because you are not in the moment. You're distracted by something else, and it could be your opponent intentionally trying to distract you, and you're falling for it, or you're simply not in the moment. You're not focused in on what's going on at that moment, and that's when you lose position. That's when you get swept. That's when you get thrown into a submission hold, and it only takes that fraction of a second where you're distracted. Or you look the wrong way, and all of a sudden, or you pick your head up,
right? Yeah,
to listen to Pat coach you.
What's that, Pat?
Right, and then you get swept.
Oh,
right, and so the same is true that if your chances are that in your life, if you're finding yourself being that bent out of shape about those things, is that it's probably one of those two things, right? Yeah. You're not actually in the moment.
I guess,
or you're distracted by the fact that like your chair's on the floor, or the cupboard doors are open,
right?
But that is a complete distraction, departure from moments ago when you were like,
you're just walking to your house.
Yeah,
absolutely.
No,
that's it.
Which is a great place to be.
That's a great, and exactly, that's a great point. Is ultimately the reason I don't go, what the fuck are you doing, or something like that. It usually is when the chair's on the ground or something like that. It's because any of those small things, because it's like, I don't know. There's so much other stuff that I love about her, and that I am. Yeah. And you know what I'm saying? Like,
of course,
it's not. This isn't.
Of course.
And even on the scale of bad or evil or
evil, on the scale of evil,
basically the worst. FBI most wanted. You know, something like that.
Yeah. I'm surprised she's not on it.
Leaving your stuff not the way you left it is not that.
It's not a crime.
Like legitimately in those scenarios where you're like, fucking Max left the closet door open, or the light on, or the wife left the door open, or whatever the fuck it is. Any of those situations, you can go like, yeah, but I really like how they're really good at drawing.
Right.
And I like that about them.
I like that.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I swear to God, I have to do. I'm going to do this, and it's gonna be weird because I'll probably say it out loud sometimes.
Yeah.
Because those situations, like I told you, remember when I told you how angry I would get at inanimate objects?
Sure, of course.
And then in the moment, I would say out loud in whatever angered voice, any feeling I'm having, I go, like if I stub my toe on a table, I go, "You're a fucking table," because I go, that's what you're mad at. You're getting mad at a table,
right?
What are you doing?
Doesn't have any feelings.
Stop.
Right.
Stop. You just stubbed your toe. Just go ice your toast.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, move on.
As it turns out,
and I need to do that with everything.
I agree. Yeah. And as it turns out, like first and foremost is that we've talked about this before. Everything's your fault anyway. And then the second thing is that good Lord, I don't want anybody, I don't want my wife or my kids or my friends thinking about all the annoying shit that I do.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like I ultimately there's tons of stuff that I do that is like, Pat, you bitch about everything. Like it's one of those things of like she doesn't complain about anything you do.
Right.
So like, and it's not because she feels like she's the only one that's wrong. It's because she's practicing patience.
And she's practicing patience, exactly.
And I'm thinking, like, okay, if I'm a patient person, does that mean I'm going to start being a dickhead to somebody? No, it doesn't mean anything. It just means you're just going to be more present in
the moment, right? Yeah, be present in the moment. So if you're coming home from work and you don't have to be ecstatic and you don't have to be sad. You could just be neutral, like going. That's still a moment. That's still a moment worth acknowledging and staying in. Right.
Yeah, I get to close all the cupboards again.
Wee!
That's worse.
You're actually gonna You're gonna
they're gonna go, oh, he hates us.
Yeah, what a fucking dickhead. Exactly. Think nothing of it. Just stay in the moment of being home and shut the fucking cupboard, or don't shut the doors.
Yeah, do whatever the fuck you want.
Who cares?
Hey, no rules here.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm gonna lower a chair before I go down.
Yeah.
She won't know it. But also, I found out I just realized I can't necessarily do the inanimate object thing with animate objects. I can't go, "You're my wife." Her go like, "Yeah," and be like, "Okay, sorry, I just needed to do that
before
What do you want for dinner?
Yeah, what are you hungry for?
Huh? I'm gonna lock it.
Like, does it?
It's locked now.
It's locked. It won't move.
Yeah.
Problem solved. But anyway, so when you're thinking about this, guys, like, especially in jiu-jitsu terms, think about, or if you need to take it outside of jiu-jitsu into your normal lives, think about the patience that's required of you during jiu-jitsu, where you're in the moment, you're not distracted, and you have to do these things over and over again. Because let's not also forget that patience needs to be deployed in just the journey of learning jiu-jitsu, getting your ranks, gaining knowledge. All these things take an enormous amount of time, effort, energy, focus, attention, all these things that you guys do without complaint.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah. We pay for it.
Yeah, and pay money for
Yeah.
it. That you're willing to invest in that. It makes perfect sense that you would do those same things in other areas of your life as well, especially if you recognize that these are things that are causing you grief or stress. It's just because you're getting distracted. You're getting distracted out of the moment.
Yeah,
right.
Just be in the moment and be more mindful. Try to be more mindful in the moment.
Yeah,
and it's very, again, it is a struggle, but yeah. That's I feel like the key. Be like you are in jiu-jitsu.
Right. And if you're not like that in jiu-jitsu, then you should
be like that in jiu-jitsu.
You should be like that.
You should be like that. You should be like me in
if
jiu-jitsu.
you struggle. And that's because this is a jiu-jitsu podcast. So I would say that if you are struggling in those areas during your matches or your drilling or whatever, take a look at whether or not you are allowing your impatience to dictate your next moves. Yeah. If that's the case, speaking of patience, if that's the case, then try deploying patience. Yes, you might get swept, you might get submitted, you're going to lose position.
Yeah.
But even in those scenarios, don't lose focus.
Yeah.
Stay patient and stay calm, because it'll be always that cooler heads prevail.
Absolutely.
Always.
Yeah. So, Jeff, I guess that would lead us to what would be going on in the world of jiu-jitsu today. There was a situation recently we talked about it, I believe, in the last episode about the upcoming fight between the two last-minute step-ins for the UFC 294 card in Abu Dhabi. One of which was Volkanovski, who is Craig Jones's protege as far as jiu-jitsu goes.
Right.
Grappling coach, Craig Jones. Shout out to that guy. But and he was. I brought up the fact that he was talking a little bit of shit about Sambo. Just firing back, essentially.
Right, firing back, right. And in defensive jiu-jitsu.
In defensive jiu-jitsu. There was a whole nother wrinkle that was brought up that I didn't even know was necessarily a thing, but I wanted to get your thoughts on this.
Lay it on me, Big Daddy.
The other last-minute fill-in was Kamaru Usman, who is a phenomenal wrestler and striker, former incredible welterweight champion, 170, and he stepped in last minute to fight at 185 against Hazmat Chimaev, who is a Dagestani fighter who is, I believe, now 12-0, and Dagestani, his weird beard and I smash.
Love Sambo.
Yeah, love Sambo, all that stuff. He said he brought up this, and it was like already we already know this.
Yeah.
He said mountain wrestling will always beat American wrestling. But overall, that jab, what I know it's probably just trying to sell the fight.
Possibly.
But a lot of time, this is happening a lot. We see it with the jiu-jitsu and the Sambo, but what is now with the mountain wrestling against American wrestling? What is the meaning of this?
What is the meaning?
What's the actual purpose of this? And do you think there's any validity to
Absolutely not.
Because you would think high altitude, is there actual practical
none?
You can't, right? It's just shit talking.
It's just shit talking.
Because you think if you want to be a grappler, you want to do something to the highest level, you would hire either Gordon Ryan or Craig Jones, John Danaher, any of that group, essentially.
Sure.
But if you're getting a wrestling coach, what is this whole mystic thing about the mountains being better than anything else or anything like that?
I mean, first of all, it's it seems to me that it's just, it's the pride in where they trained.
Okay.
And
that's what I thought. Yeah.
I can respect that. It's true to say that in terms of their approach to training and their mentality, they've definitely got it. They understand. They're like, look, hard work pays. and they go after it, right?
Right.
And what really happens, I think, in a lot of ways, is that kind of shit gets in their head, it gets in competitors' heads, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Well, I don't have the confidence that somebody who's a mountain wrestler would have."
Yeah, like one of those it's something about like I wanted to get your insight on like if they got one of those weird beards, they're like, "Uh-oh, don't grapple with them."
Right.
It's like, why?
But
like,
but think about it like this though, from a grappling standpoint, I'm not seeing them competing in grappling competitions against the highest level grapplers.
It's very specific to their thing. They're wrestling bears or they're wrestling other dudes in half gis. You know what I mean?
Right. And I'm not saying I'm not saying that they wouldn't do well in those competitions.
Right.
But I don't see them doing that.
Like you can't say that. Like you can say, yeah, exactly. I think that's a great distinction to say is like you've had mountain wrestlers and American wrestlers fight in MMA, but how many of them ever go against each other in
a straight grappling competition?
And okay, we'll do mountain rules and we'll do fucking American rules or whatever you want. You
know? And so I mean it seems to me that we always have to have a villain.
Yeah.
We have to, and for some reason in our minds, the idea is that I have to be standing for something, that's just and better or good versus evil,
there's a point to what I'm doing.
I have this, right. Instead of just being like a really good grappler or a really good fighter
fighting.
and love fighting, right?
Yeah.
And just being like, so Mikey, he does this, right? He and of course we're talking about Musameshi, right? So when he fights, like he does it for the joy and love of grappling. And he is a top level competitor, a world champion. Like this is somebody that and Marcelo Garcia was like that too, right? And during his competition days, is that he was very respectful of his opponents. He didn't waste his time talking shit, and he also didn't waste his time thinking about anything other than getting better at his jiu-jitsu.
Right.
And is arguably the greatest jiu-jitsu champion of all time, forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
Even Gordon Ryan.
Yeah.
Is like, admires Marcelo Garcia.
Right, and that because he doesn't need tricks.
He didn't. He just needed to believe in himself and do this stuff for the love of the art that they are practicing, and go out there and win.
Yeah, I bring up this specific scenario because it's something that I've always had like this thing of like, man, I kind of fell for it obviously a little bit with like Khabib is an incredible grappler. I just watched him against Ali Quinta, a rematch or they replayed it or whatever on YouTube.
Yeah,
and like and Khabib is an incredible grappler.
Sure,
Khabib is
right,
and he trains people, but like. You're not going to tell everybody all your tricks. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not going to teach everything just in case. There's going to be you got a couple things just for yourself. And I think that era of them being so dumb, because I bring that scenario up because Khamzat Chimaev specifically said, mountain wrestling is better than American wrestling.
Yeah.
And he got kind of out grappled. Like it was not, he grappled the first round.
Right.
He said he broke his wrist. Maybe it happened. Maybe it happened. Maybe it happened.
Possibly.
But also like, okay, like, but you got out grappled.
Right. Regardless if you broke your wrist.
You did not dominate him like you would have anybody else. He had the great transitions, great scrambles, but it looked like a competitive grappling match. And that's what I'm saying is,
of course,
it kind of, I think that era of the bearded weirdos being the best grapplers it's shifted a little bit, and maybe
or it never existed in the first place.
Right, like there was only that stigma. Everybody was riding Khabib's coattails.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's fair to say, at least in my opinion, like some of the, if not the toughest people that I've ever met in my entire life are all grapplers.
Yeah,
whether they were freestyle wrestlers, Greco-Roman, Sambo, jiu-jitsu, judo. Like these people are fucking tough, man. They're and mountain wrestlers. I mean, all these people share a commonality with like the love and art of grappling. I mean, anybody that's ever done any form of grappling understands that like it is not easy. It's not an easy sport.
Yeah.
It's not an easy art. Like this stuff is really hard on you mentally and physically, and so like you can take pride in where you come from and the work that you do. I don't blame you at all for thinking you're the best. You should think you're the best. You're in the fight game.
Right.
You shouldn't be like,
you shouldn't be like, it's going to be good. I think he's really good.
I think
he's really good.
That guy's really good.
Right. I got to tell you, I'm a little nervous about, he's got a really good jab.
Right.
It's like, no, shut up.
Yeah. Shut the fuck up.
But also to say like, mountain wrestling. It was so dismissive of like this. We all know that, and it was like, oh, you can't do that,
right?
Because he's good,
right?
Like Kamaru Usman, I believe was an NCAA. I don't know if he Olympic. Like he's one of them.
You got it. You have to right, and it's like okay. So I mean, from that perspective, I think it's just designed to get people, bent out of shape and get them get in their heads and like think.
Didn't work. It went through all 3 rounds, and it was a questionable decision in my opinion. Or move on.
But we'll move on.
You know.
So that was an excellent discussion.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate you.
Yeah.
So you know what that leads to, though.
Jeff, I'm not sure exactly. Should we
ask a black belt?
From a little guy you know as Robert.
Okay.
He asks, what's the spookiest role you ever had?
Wow. Great question, Robert. And good to hear from you too, by the way. I would say so there was I had this like small period of time and I can't remember now if I think it was during like purple belt where I was a purple belt and you guys have all heard me talk about how much I love purple belt. I love purple belts in general. I love that rank. It's just a great time to be a jiu-jitsu player because you're at the expert levels of jiu-jitsu, but still nobody like the expectations.
I was just gonna say, I'm actually very much looking forward to it.
You have all the fun and none of the responsibilities. It's great.
Yeah.
So and I remember like it because just like you guys, everything ebbs and flows for me jiu-jitsu wise, But it was one of those moments where I was just really like sort of captivated by like sort of the strength and power. I mean, and I don't mean like the physical strength and power, but just like the strength and power of jiu-jitsu on a whole. Really just sort of captivated by it. And one of the spookiest things that ever happened to me is that I had this moment and somebody, and I don't remember if it was Joe Stetter, somebody had me in like a rear naked choke, was putting me out, and I needed to tap. Okay. And I did tap and let it out. But I had this fleeting thought where I could just die right here.
Yeah.
And strangely, I was very, very comfortable with it. Like I was like,
that's dark.
It's amazing, and it brought into and of course it has evolved into my teaching and so forth. Is on occasion I'll remind everybody that what we're practicing is how to cause extreme bodily harm and or death.
Yeah, to neutralize an opponent.
Yeah, we can.
That's what it is.
If you cut off the blood supply to somebody's brain long enough, they die.
Yeah.
And so that's also a reminder about how much trust is involved with your training partners because there's nothing that says they have to let go when you tap.
Yeah. Like there's nothing in the waiver that says you can't kill your opponents.
Yeah.
Like that's why they signed them.
Yeah, you're going to go to jail for it. Likely,
maybe.
Right? Maybe
it was self-defense. Literally.
Yeah, maybe it was.
But it's so funny that you bring that up because it really brings to perspective how fucked up we are sometimes.
It's spooky.
It's the fact that like literally if you just hold that rear naked, I mean, it's an amount of time. It's like a count. It's like what, a 5-10 count? Like if you were to hold that.
Yeah, I mean, so after 7 seconds approximately, you'll go to sleep.
Right.
After like 15 seconds, you're experiencing brain damage, and I think somewhere in like the 30-second to 45-second range, you can die.
Right. So like that's the thing where I think Dom and I were watching a UFC recently. I was watching a UFC. She was reading, but there was a situation where somebody they were checking. The ref kept checking their hand.
Yeah.
And they kept going like that.
Thumbs up.
And the guy dropped his hand.
Yeah.
To like push on his leg, like to just have his arm somewhere else besides up here, like because he's like, I can't do anything up here. So
right,
and as soon as his hand dropped, the ref
stopped the fight,
and it was like no, and I told like literally, I did one of those things where I was like, this is why that was wrong. It's because literally all he needed to do was grab at the hand one more time, and he could see like he could have gone like, no, I'm okay,
right.
But this is not that much time where it's gonna, but. If he went like this and he dropped his hand and he was like 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, you know what I mean? Then it starts, and it's crazy
dicey,
that it's
right.
that close, but
Yeah.
there's still plenty of time for a ref to do one more check.
Sure.
But you're right.
But
it
it
is
but it's
just
true.
seconds
Yeah.
away.
Yeah,
That's very spooky.
Exactly. And everybody's different. Everybody's body reacts differently. And there's always the possibility that like some sort of catastrophic injury could occur. We've seen it happen in jiu-jitsu on rare occasions where something goes bad, someone breaks their neck, blah, blah, blah. But very rare. But the reality is that like 99% of all like jiu-jitsu and jiu-jitsu practitioners do practice these things on a regular basis and are put in these positions on a regular basis with the intent of, egregious bodily harm,
killing them,
snapping limbs,
Yeah.
like, creating catastrophic injury, and our partners let go and we clap hands, hug, and go again. Right. Like,
damn.
But
and you're just sitting there in a rear naked, just like, hello, darkness, smile, and seeing all these cupboards.
It's very
open.
similar.
Just like,
yeah. It's very similar to like what was going on in my head at the time. And I thought of it like afterwards, just like how, so it was very spooky, Robert. And it is one that so much so that it's stuck with me for the rest of my life so far. I mean, I've I think about it on a semi-regular basis, and a reminder that first of all, like, it would be great if that's how I go out. And second of all,
hell yeah, dude.
And
especially by Joe.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, that's fucking
right.
How honorable of a death
in
is
the
that?
arms of my best friend. So, but also the idea that like this is like an overwhelming amount of power that you wield at any given moment in those decisions, and also the utmost of like compassion and empathy and understanding as you let go of these things. Not only was I willing to let go of my own life at the time,
that's crazy,
but my partner was willing to let go after I tapped. So I mean, it's really like, and it does get spooky when you start thinking about it like that. Great question, Robert. Thank you.
That's actually the only one we have this week.
That's great. No, that's fine. That's
short
fine.
and sweet,
And speaking of short and sweet, what's on your turntable, Pat?
Another newer band that I discovered, again, via social media.
Shout out to social media, everybody.
So the name, not specific. It's a Japanese metal band.
Okay.
And this is why. The name isn't hard to pronounce. It's just fucking weird.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
The name of the band is Maximum the Hormone.
Okay, Maximum the Hormone.
Yeah, and their song Alien.
Yeah.
I highly suggest checking out the music video, as well as some of their other tracks and everything like that. That song in particular we say metal, and it is weird, but it's very much in the same vein of like weird, like System of a Down.
Yeah,
like close to it. Would be, the best way I think I could describe them is maybe a Japanese System of a Down.
Okay,
that like where it's like weird, and also kind of a little bit of like the weird, like Red Hot Chili Peppers, like. Lots of slap bass, lots of weird elements in this. It's not
some Primus.
Yeah, it's not just like a weird. Yeah, it's not like a.
Is it metal or is it industrial?
It's
metal industrial.
I think industrial might be a better way to put it.
Okay,
yeah, metal industrial is kind of, but they're self-proclaimed metal. But
okay,
I would Maximum the Hormone. I remember. Not only did the video it looks really cool, like the graphics and the
art direction.
Yeah, the art direction really matches the song well. And the song is so interesting and unique that it's like the name, the video, everything really comes together for that. Like that, it really makes it to be, they stand out. And I wanted to make sure that I got the name right, but like, it's one of those things of they bore themselves into my brain. And that song got stuck in my head for a long time. And I was just like, man, what the fuck? And every time I go like, I remember so much about them, and I go, what the fuck was their name again? I think they shot themselves in the foot a little bit with the name.
Right.
They made it a little too weird, but I highly suggest checking out Maximum the Hormone. Add them to your list so you don't have to look them up again, and they just
play
shows
the,
up
the playlist. Right.
Just add them to the list because
cool, man.
It's fun.
Yeah, I'll check it out for sure. Awesome.
What about you, buddy?
Oh shit!
What's on your turntable?
Good save, by the way.
Spider-Man. See, I do drugs a lot,
and it worked.
Great reaction time.
Great reaction time.
Especially when I can't afford to replace it.
Exactly right. Oh my god. On my turntable right now is a punk rock band out of Washington.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Washington.
MXPX.
It's not fucking MXPX.
Wait, DC or
No.
okay.
West Coast. I can't remember if they're out of Portland or if they're out of Oregon or if they're out of Washington. I think out of Washington. The Shook ones.
The Shook ones.
Yeah,
Okay.
Shooked ones.
Oh,
Yeah.
the Shooked ones.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
interesting.
I'm sure you've listened to them.
I don't think
you had
so.
to have, okay, you've not
Uh-uh.
heard of them. Okay, they've been around for a while, but anyway, they're on my turntable lately because I just it's a great I like everything. They've got 4 or 5 records in their whole catalog. Great band, but what's really interesting about them, and I think everybody would enjoy, not just like the vocal stylings, which are really unique. The songs themselves are great, but it's almost like their rhythm section is almost like jazz. And don't get it twisted. I don't mean that it's jazz music. It's syncopated.
Okay.
So it means that there's like it works on like off beats and
it's
everything.
Like how
else.
Dillinger is kind of has used a lot of
Exactly.
jazz, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So their rhythm section plays at times in a very syncopated manner, and it's really interesting, and it adds a lot of texture to their music, which I really enjoy, and it keeps it like, instead of just a straight 4/4 time on it, it's like, what the fuck was that? You know? And then you get a lot of good like breakdowns and stuff like that. So anything in their catalog is worth a listen. So yeah, take a listen.
I always love that when bands that I like are way more like talented than people give them credit for. Like how Slayer's drummer was always
goodness, yes.
He was a classical composer and stuff like that. Like all these interesting different facts, because like when you have I believe it's Gary Sharon. No, I can't remember the guy's name. It was whoever the drummer. Again, speaking of Dillinger Escape Plan, is another band that a lot of times is referred to as mathcore or math metal. Or something like that.
Yeah.
But it really is just jazz structure used with distortion.
Sure.
And things of different elements. It's organized chaos, and it's a lot of times
organized chaos is a great way to put it. It's shook ones are a little bit. They're a little bit more traditional,
smoothed out kind of.
Well, it's a little bit more like straightforward, like punk rock, right?
Okay.
Like so, because it doesn't get complicated in that sense, but they're very, and I should clarify that the name of the band is Shook Ones. That's not there's no the in it. It's Shook Ones.
Okay, I wanted to make sure I had the right one. Yeah,
Shook Ones.
Shook Ones.
God damn it!
Well, I had to look up Maximum the Hormone.
It's okay. I just wanted to make sure that we got the name right. So anyway, Shook Ones. Anyway, terrific band. Listen to them. Oh, I know the one thing that I did want to comment on, because you had said it and I agree with you, and that is so many of like the bands that we've listened to throughout our youth and then into our adulthood that just don't get the credit for being extraordinary musicians.
Yeah, like great musicians.
Musicians, like some of the best.
Matt Freeman is not only a punk rock bass legend, but like I think he's one of the greatest rock bassists to live,
possibly ever.
Yeah,
Like,
do you know what I'm saying? Like he has so much versatility and so much capability that sure, the guy in Metallica is good, but
So
you know,
right. Lots of great bassists out there, but
but
there's some extraordinary. Like if you've never listened to Michael McDermott play drums, in any of the variety of punk rock bands that he's a phenomenal drummer. Not a good punk rock drummer.
No.
I mean just a phenomenal drummer, unbelievably good.
There's something to say about again. Speaking of jazz, shout out to jazz.
That's right.
is knowing when not to play the notes not to play, the when to play, all the stuff.
Yeah, like the empty spaces.
The patience of some drummers and some percussionists that I've
comes
listened
full
to.
circle.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you have that.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
It's all about playing the right thing, and I think what we learned from this Ask a Turntable is rethink the name of your band.
Please,
both of you. Either change it to the Shooked Ones, which I don't support. I just support you.
I support you.
I don't know if I like that name better. But honestly, just get it together. Maximum the Hormone. Be the Maximum Hormone. Way better name.
Just saying.
Just saying.
We'll see you guys.